Hi, I'm Al Stroud, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about the Notes app on the iPhone. This is recorded using iOS 17. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, now that you can see my screen, let's get on with talking about the Notes app. I'm going to find the Notes app on my phone, which in my case, the icon is located right here. It just has sort of a little orangish yellow thing at the top, and then underneath it, a couple of lines like you might find on a sheet of note paper. So if you can find that on your phone and open it up, it may not look exactly like mine. I'm going to go ahead and open mine now. When I first open it mine looks like this with a thing that says folders at the top. Yours may look different, but I'm just going to go ahead and start at another place. I want to show you about what you can actually do in a note before I come back and talk about organizing them, which is what all of this is about. So to open a note and to start preparing one, you just come down here to the bottom right and you'll see an icon that looks like a sheet of paper with a pencil sticking in it in the middle of it. So I'm going to just touch that, and that opens a note for me to be able to work on. The first thing I'm going to do is look at the organization of my note. Right now I have a title line up here. I'm going to come down to this little icon, which is a large A and a small a, and when I touch on that, it brings up a formatting section. This is like any other word processing thing. Lets me bold things or italic or put underlines, so forth. It also lets me size the text. I can have a title, a heading which is smaller, a subheading which is smaller than that, and a body text. If you watch my cursor up at the top, you'll see that it changes from wider to smaller. So I'm just going to leave it at title right now. I'm going to just use the little X to get out of this formatting section. So now I'm back to my keyboard where I can type it in. So I'm just going to type in Wordle. Wordle. Oops. So it knew what I was trying to type down below. I think you may have seen that. So I've just typed it as Wordle. And I'm going to do a couple of returns down here to move myself down away from the title and into text. That Wordle is the title that will appear on my note when I go back to my main screen. So if I'm looking for this note, it's under Wordle. So I'm now going to type in a little bit about Wordle. So I'm going to put in Wordle is a game. So I've got to start now on typing what I want to put in about Wordle, but I don't want to keep on typing with my finger. I've got a lot of stuff to put in here and I want to do it more easily for me. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to touch the little microphone icon. When I do that, it's going to allow me to just dictate to the note. You'll see when I touch it, it will change color. When it changes color, I know I'm in that mode. When I'm ready to get out of it, I can touch it again and it'll go back to looking like this. So let's just go ahead and do that. Wordle is on an app on my iPhone, period. It is actually on more than one app, period. The primary one I use is the New York Times app, comma. However, it is also used I'm going to stop right there because that's not what I wanted to say. So I'm just going to use my little back down here. I'm going to back up. I'm just going to stop right there. I'm going to hit a couple of spaces to put in a period. I'm going to go back to my microphone. Another one I use is called Wordle exclamation mark, period. It is a word game where I have to try to guess the word that they have put in by selecting various options and moving on from there. Not a very reasonable thing, but we're going to quit right there. I'm just going to put a period at the end by hitting my space bar. Oops. Guess it's going to make me do that to get it finished. If I want to go back and make a correction to some particular word in here, I can do it like I would in any other word processing program on an iPhone. I'm going to put my finger right on the cursor, and you'll see it allows me to move that cursor around anywhere in the item. It started out with a magnifying glass, quickly went away, and I'm not sure why, but I can move that, put it wherever I want it, and then use the keyboard to make my corrections. And in case you aren't aware of it, I can also go down here to the space bar, put my finger on the space bar, and that sort of turns my screen into a track pad, and I can move the cursor around by moving my finger around down on the lower part of my screen. You can't see it very well, but the lower part of my screen turned dark and is really just a trackpad at this point. So that's another way you can move around and make corrections. So that's the way you'd enter text. You can type it in or you can speak it in. In addition to that, you can see that there are some other icons down across the bottom of the screen. The second one is another one I use a lot. It is a checklist. So if I put that in, and let's say I was going to the store and I wanted to get milk and bread, I could make my little checklist here. When I get to the store, I know to go and get milk and bread, so I can just touch them to mark when I'm done. So that's another thing you can do on here. The next one, the next of those, next icon over is a table that's a little hard to see on here. They're sort of light colored blocks, but you can see that it has blocks. If you have something that you wanted to put into a table, you can create it right here in your note. If you want to add more columns, for example, or take away columns, you go up here to these three little dots, and the first time I touch it, it just highlights, and the second time, if I hold my finger on it, it will give me a choice of, let's see if I can do it. There, just tapped it. To delete a column or add a column. If I do the one on the left-hand side, same deal, except it's the rows. Now I can delete a row or add a row. So I can adjust that table to fit what I want in it. I don't really need the table right now, so I'm just going to use my keyboard to go back, highlight it, and get rid of it. Delete it. So that takes it out. The next icon over is a camera icon. And as you might imagine, that would allow me to take a picture. So if I wanted to take a picture of a product to include in my shopping list, for example, if I have a particular thing that I think is weird and I won't remember it when I get to the store, I can take a picture of the can or the box and I'll know exactly what I'm looking for. Or I can include a picture for any other purpose. So I can do a picture, or I can also do other things. I'm going to touch that icon and you'll see when I've touched it, it opens to choose a photo or video, so I can use one I've already taken. I could scan a document. I could take a photo or video. Let's take a picture of the thing that I'm going to put on my shopping list, for example, or I can scan text. The difference between scanning a document and scanning text is that in the first one, the scan document, it's going to scan the whole thing. If you put scan text, it'll let you select the particular set of text you want to put in, so you don't have to put the whole document in if you only want just a little piece of it. Or I can, I could choose a photo or video or take one. So I'm going to go back and do choose a photo or video because I took a screenshot of my Wordle screen. I'm going to add that to my document right here. So you can see I now have a picture of a Wordle screen. You don't need to go into all of that, but it is what I can do it. And now down below it, I can go ahead and add other, I can go ahead and do other things with that note. So I'm looking at the note and I'm thinking, okay, let's say I want to make some, do some other things on here. I could take another picture, or if I've got a space here, maybe I decide I want to draw a picture of something. So if you look down at the bottom of my screen, you can see that there are some little icons down here. One of these is the drawing icon. It looks like a little pencil in a circle box. I'm just going to touch that, and you'll see it brings up a whole series of pen, pencil, and so forth. There are different drawing instruments that I might want to use to make a picture. I'm just going to go ahead and, since it's already selected, here's the marker. It's the biggest one. I'm going to then go over here to this icon, which is the color selection tool. And when I touch that, it will pop up a screen where I can select different colors. I can make different mixtures of colors by changing the things up here. Right now, I'm just going to make this blue. So now I have a blue marker. I'm going to say done at the top here. When I touch done, it takes me back to my screen. I'm now in my blue marker with blue color, and I'm going to just draw on the screen a little bit. And then I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to go back to my color wheel, and I'm going to switch to green and say done and draw in green. And that's really all there is to drawing. I also have the eraser tool, which you can see I just touched. It's pulled up. That lets me erase this. Putting my finger on any of these lets me select the size. So you can see the object eraser right now is a larger size. If I go to the pen and hold it down, you can see it lets me select larger or smaller sizes. The same is true of most of these things. If I wanted to draw a picture on a picture or something, I have to go to this tool right here, which is selection tool. So I'm going to just go down on my screen a little bit. Oops, I'm still in drawing mode. Erase to start with. I'm in the drawing mode. I'm going to get back into my selection mode. I'm going to select that picture. When I select the picture, it makes it bigger there in the middle of the screen, and it moves my icon for selecting drawing down here to the bottom right. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to go back to my blue marker again, and that lets me draw on this. So I could circle, just erase for a second. Oops, even erase for a second. And then I'm going to go back to my blue marker. I could circle, say, my ends, just so if I wanted to talk to you about my different ends, you'd know what I was talking about. Or if I wanted to put further things on my notes about ends, you'd now know what I was talking about. So that's really all there is to drawing on a picture with a marker. You can also come over on these series of icons on your phone. Down at the bottom right, you see a little plus. If you do that, it tells you that you can also add stickers to this. You can do a description. You can add text, signature, shape. Text is just put it in there. It adds the text in. When you touch your finger on that in that text block, it brings up your keyboard so you can do anything else. So if I wanted to type Wordle in there, I can do that. Just a way of putting text right on a picture in your note. So I'm done with that now. So that's about how you handle adding pictures to your screen. So with that, let's move on. Okay, from here, what I want to do is to go back, use the icon in the top left where it says all icon. I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to then go one step further back to folders. And under folders, I'm going to go down a little ways until you can see some of the particular folders that I have here. I'm going to just open iPhone key operations by touching on it, and then you can see that it has my notes under that. So I have various kinds of notes, usually about things that came up during one of my iPhone classes that I thought it was important for me to capture so I could talk about them with another class. If somebody else asks a question that I just don't remember the answer to, I can go back and refresh my memory real quickly right there. So that's just how I would organize those notes. So folders and subfolders, and you create a subfolder the same way you create a folder. If I'm in the iPhone classes, I can do it there. If I'm in a note itself, that allows, I have things that I can do to further organize my notes in there. I'm just going to go back a second. If you look up a little bit, you can see under personal, I also have two different sections, one called Vial of Life and the other called Driver's Licenses. I'm going to touch on Driver's Licenses. That opens my Driver's Licenses folder. You can see I have Driver's Licenses and Global Entry, and both of those notes say locked. So if I touch one, it doesn't open the note. It just says this note is locked. In order to get into that note, I have to put in an additional code, or I'd have to use, in this case, Face ID because I've enabled it. I could disable that, but right now it's enabled. If somebody else got my phone, though, if I left it somewhere and they pick it up, manage to get into it somehow, and then get to this note, they still can't look at my driver's license because it's still locked. They'd have to know the code to get into that. Now you can choose to just use your default phone code, or you can set up a separate special code that's different for your locked notes. So it is a way of providing additional security in a note that you keep on your phone. So as you can see, I did that for driver's licenses, global entry, and there are other things that I have in here that are locked because I don't want somebody to just be able to get into them and see them if they accidentally get my phone and somehow manage to get into it. So we have various ways of organizing those. I'm just going to show you a couple of things real quick again. If I go into notes and all the way down to Wordle, I probably have several Wordles in here because I've played with this. So if I'm in the note for Wordle and I go up to the top of the screen, you'll see that there's two little things up here. One of them, the one with the circle and three dots, always a good place to look if you don't know where to find an action that you know you can do in a particular app. You can go up there, and it usually has several options. So I'm going to go through these real quick. You can use a find in there. So if there's something in your note that you want to find in particular, you can also move a note to a folder. So if I wanted to move Wordle to the games folder, this is where I would go to do that. I can do lines and grids. I can do an attachment view where I can see attachments that I've put into notes. And at the top, it has scan. Now, talked about scanning before. If I do the camera icon when I'm in the note, it lets me do a scan. This also lets me do a scan. This is to pin the note. Pin notes stay at the top of whatever list you're looking at in your phone. And then there is the lock icon, which just allows you to lock the note, and we talked about that earlier. So this is where I would go to lock the note or to pin it. One way of doing each of those things. So that's the key information on that. So let's go back to my notes again. So if I go in here to Wordle this way, when I'm down on a particular note and I slide it to the from left to right, you'll see it gives me an option to pin it there as well. So again, I'm going left to right. If I go right to left, it lets me do other things. I can go back to my share, I can move it to a different share, I can move it to a different folder, or I can delete it. So there are different ways you can get your note into these different uh, modes where it's pinned or it's in a particular folder. So if I get to a folder, and I'm just going to go down here to the games folder, if I'm in a folder like this and I go to the three little dots at the top, it will let me rename that folder. So if I wanted to make it a more specific name, I can go there and it brings up my keyboard so I could change that name to anything else that I wanted. The other thing I can do, and I thought this was sort of cute, you'll see that when I go to my list, I have a bunch of these where I've put an icon in, oops, or emoji down here. So I would just pick out one of those. So if I thought this was a chill game, I might want to put that in. So when I get that done, I just do that, and now my title of my folder looks like that. So that's just the way you could name or rename a folder. Just wanted to mention that. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you about on Notes today. I hope this has been helpful, and if you found it helpful, I hope you'll come back and take a look at some of my other videos. Thank you.